Coach, you played 2 years of basketball at Eastern Washington University. You've coached as an assistant coach at a number of Big Sky schools, and now you're the head coach of Idaho basketball. What sets Vandal basketball apart from other programs in the Big Sky?
Oh, it's a special place, and it starts with our leadership right now with President Green and Terry Golick, with our, president and athletic director. They've been amazing since they both started. I mean, President Green has a background with the University of Idaho from his days growing up in Moscow. He has family connections to the university, and you can tell in a short amount of time being around him how passionate he is about the university, what it means to him, and how he wants more success across the board. And also, it's great to know that he's a basketball fan. So he's been tremendous to work with. And then Terry Golick, she has been unbelievable since her start in September in terms of her support of, I know specifically to us with our program, our staff, our players, but department-wide with the energy and enthusiasm she's brought to the department, and just how much of an impact she has made from day one. Both of those two have been amazing to the success so far here at the University of Idaho.
Now, tell me about how you've seen Big Sky basketball evolve since you were an Eagle back in the 90s. Tell me about how you've seen it evolve to now.
Well, the talent level, number one, in terms of the players that are in this league, continues to improve, over the years. And, you can highlight, obviously, you look at somebody like Damian Lillard that, he's the highlight of how good it can be. But there's been a number of guys that have come through this league that have played at a very high level, that have gone on to great professional careers. But in the moment when they're playing in the league, it's a very competitive conference year in and year out. There's always battles, for the top spot in the league, but then you invariably see a log jam for the second, third, fourth, fifth, and, teams fighting for that seeding coming into the conference tournament. But then at the same time, it's been a league that's always been full of terrific coaches, and, it's no different right now. And it starts with Coach Ray at Weber State, who, I think quite confident he's the all-time winningest coach in Big Sky, conference history. And there's a reason for that. He's done an amazing job there. And it's from top to bottom. There's unbelievable coaches, coaching staffs in this conference, and it's what makes it exciting. It's what makes it hard for us specifically, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of many coaches, that your preparation from game to game, you have to be on point, because that come Thursday or Saturday night, the other team's going to be ready to go and well prepared.
That's for sure. So talking about conference basketball specifically, I want to take it back to that first conference win that you guys had this season against Portland State at home. What was that like for you and your team?
Well, it was a fun one for us to get, obviously, to be at home, number one. That was early on in the conference season, and our guys, throughout the year, but then, obviously start a conference is important. And for them to play, have a game that, we played well, we were able to handle in a positive way against Portland State's, full court pressure. Portland State ended up, one of the top 5 teams in our league. And so it was, they're very well coached. They've got an abundance of talent. And for us to come out and have a productive game where we valued the ball, where we were able to get good, stops when we needed to, that was a big one for our guys to get early on in the season.
For sure. Were there any other moments specifically that stuck out to you from this season?
From an overall standpoint, from everything that we went through, I give a whole lot of credit to our guys in terms of their resiliency to keep fighting, to keep up their spirits, to remain positive through everything we did. And, I know that there were many times where it didn't, seem like it from a win-loss standpoint, but, they continued to fight, they continued to compete. And, you brought up the Portland State game. I know, a fun one for our guys was, you've got the Big Sky champions in Eastern Washington, and our guys put together a really good night up in Cheney where, we were able to knock down some shots. We were able to get some timely stops, and Shante does an amazing job with his team. Those guys were as dangerous as anybody, not only in the league, but shoot anybody out west in terms of how prolific they were from an offensive standpoint. So that was a fun night for our guys to see that when you're playing hard, when you're doing what's asked of you, when you're believing in one another, good things can happen.
You're so close with your team and you're so proud of them. It seems like really, whether it's on the court or off the court, you're proud of them as people. How are you staying connected with them during this time, and how is that helping you through this time that we're going through?
Sure. It's obviously a unique set of circumstances that we're dealing with. When we left the conference tournament, we met in the hotel before we jumped on the bus to drive back to Moscow. And, I joked with the guys that, I was telling them for the first time ever in my entire coaching career, don't go to class tomorrow. So they got a kick out of that, number one. But then number two, it was, you guys need to talk with your parents and figure out where they want you to be, because at that time there was still an awful lot of uncertainty, and it was do they want do they want to come get you, they want to drive to come get you, you need to check with parents, so they want you on airplanes, and so everybody's in a safe place. They have been now for a couple weeks, which is great. What we've done is we've had a weekly meeting on Zoom to connect with everybody and get a chance to see everybody. Amongst our staff, we've split guys up and made sure that we're staying in a regular, bit of contact with the guys, just making sure, number one, first and foremost, that they're healthy, that they're good with their families and everything's okay. And then, the second big thing is making sure that all of our guys are staying on top of their classes, because as much as there are online classes now, this more than anything, it's not like I've got an online class, but I can run over and go see my professor if I have a question. Everything's being done from a remote location. And so it's making sure that our guys are aware that just because you're, back at home or wherever they are, your classes are, your number one priority right now. And it's, staying on top of those, making sure that you have nothing else, basketball wise, you have nothing to worry about. So it's making sure that you're staying on top of your classes and finishing off this semester in the most positive way we can.
Now, Coach, tell me about how you got started in coaching, how you realized that this is what you want to be doing. And then I'd like to hear about what the most rewarding part of being a coach is.
Well, in terms of, I've known I've wanted to coach for a very long time. Even when I was playing in college, I would go home in the summers. I'd go back to Nebraska, and the high school that I played at, they'd have summer leagues back there, and I would help coach those guys sometimes. And I had the itch from day one. And I joke sometimes that I may have been the only senior in college that, knew that I wasn't going to go play professionally. I knew that, from, once my last senior game was over, it was time to start moving on, and all I wanted to do was coach. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to be a part of this profession. I tell our team all the time that I don't feel like I have to go to work. I get to throw on a pair of shorts. I get to go to practice, and I love what I do. And the interaction with our guys, with our staff, all the folks in our department, it's been fabulous in that regard. And you ask in terms of the most rewarding. Yes, I'm no different than anybody else. I love to win games. Practice on a daily basis is tremendous. It's my favorite part of my day outside of being around my own children. But the biggest thing are the relationships you have with your guys. And whether you hear from a guy, excuse me, whether you hear from a guy that, he's engaged to get married, whether you hear, that they're having their first baby, any and all of that information that you get from your guys is as good as gold, because you spent anywhere from 2, 3, upwards of 5 years side by side. These young men, as they're growing up and getting their education and playing the game that they love. And so the most rewarding by far are the relationships you hold on to for the rest of your life. And that's what makes this so rewarding.
Absolutely, I'm sure. And now, this is one question. We'll end with this. I've been asking everyone that I've spoken with lately the same question. So, during this time, we all have more free time than we normally would have. How are you taking advantage of this extra free time that you have now?
Well, as I mentioned a little bit ago, I have three amazingly beautiful daughters. They so they're getting more and more of my time, which is great. All three of them have their own homework to do, so we've turned the dining room table into homework central, so everybody gets their work done. There are definitely some giggle sessions that are going through intermixed while getting their studying done, but that's by far the best. And whether it's whether it's hanging out at the table, whether we sit down and watch a show together, we've pulled out some board games, we've played some cards, we've had some really good time together. And amongst this craziness under the unfortunate set of circumstances, we've made the best of it, and you can't beat the time with your own children.
I'm so glad to hear that. Coach, thank you so much for your time. And, I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing you in person soon and can't wait to get back to Vandal basketball next season.